Okay, whenever talking about the subject of the world, I think it's important for us to understand the nature of the world because before you can be successful in any journey, you have to know what is your goal and you have to understand how you're going to get there. And in order to be successful in this journey of crossing through or journeying through the world, we have to know what is the nature of the world. So what I would like to do is give you a perspective, and that is, or a suggestion, and that is to view or to approach this world as a stranger, or better yet, as a traveler or as a wayfarer. And I want you to think about this advice for a moment, because this advice is very simple and it's very short. Because I would like to tell you something in a few words that is so profound. And that is, when you think about being a traveler, what is the mindset of a traveler? Ask yourself, when was the last time that you were traveling? And what was your mindset? Think about the hotel room that you were staying in. And my question to you is, when you go to stay at a hotel when you are traveling, how many go into the hotel room, look around and say, okay, I want to start decorating. I want to start going out and buying couches and buying different bedspreads and different sheets and different stuff like that to decorate the room. How many of you, when staying at a hotel, say, okay, I'm going to go out to a store, spend all of this money and decorate this room? How many of you go to the bedspread at the hotel and say, oh my, this bedspread is the wrong color, and then you throw it out, and then you go to the store and spend all of this money on a new bedspread? No one does this. No one does that. Why? Why do we act this way when we are staying at a hotel room? The reason is very simple. The reason is because we know we are only staying there for a short time, and then we're leaving. How many of you really become attached to your hotel bed? Like, you just don't want to let it go. Like, there's a chair in the room and you just become so attached to this chair. Nobody does that to a chair or a bed or anything that is inside a hotel room, because it is just a temporary resting place. It is just a temporary transitional place. So you won't invest a lot of money in furnishing your hotel room. You don't become obsessed or attached to the furniture in your hotel room. The reason is because you know that you are leaving. You know that the hotel room is just temporary. Similarly, if your hotel room is not comfortable, if your hotel bed is not the most comfortable bed in the world, typically hotel bedrooms aren't the most comfortable. Typically, hotel pillows aren't the most comfortable. Typically, the hotel showers and the chairs in the entertainment system is not the best in the world. How many of you make a big deal of that? And it's okay. Why is it okay? Why is it okay to be uncomfortable in a hotel room? Because you know that your stay there is only temporal. It's only temporary. Okay? And then you are leaving. So there's a natural sense of detachment when you are a traveler, because you're like, oh, okay, I can handle it for a few days, or even if it is for a few weeks, I can handle it. because you know that you are leaving the hotel and the hotel room is not permanent. Okay? So how does this similitude apply to this life? Okay, it is just like a person that is traveling in the desert. And he is traveling on his camel in the desert. And so as he is traveling in the desert on his camel, he is traveling in the hot sun. And so this traveler sees a palm tree and sees an opportunity to stop and to rest and to pray and to maybe replenish and to hydrate himself. So he stops for a moment under the palm tree. And then after he is there for a moment, and then he continues his journey. But the traveler in the desert that sees the palm tree and the shade that the palm tree offers as a canopy does not ever stop there and to live there under the tree, under the shade. It is just a transitional and temporary stopping place. That is how we are to be in this life, in this world, as a stranger on a journey that is traveling for the sake of God. Okay, this does not mean that we can't have nice things and that we cannot go out and get nice things for ourselves while we are here. However, there is a big difference between having things that you own and between having things that own you. So when we have things of this world, you see, God, He covers and showers and bestows upon us gifts. We all are drowning in gifts. God gives us money. He gives us spouses, families, jobs, kids. He gives us wealth. He gives us health. He gives us status. He gives us beauty. He gives us knowledge. He gives us wisdom. He gives us understanding. We are drowning in the gifts of God. And so the problem is that when God gives us these gifts, we should appreciate these gifts and not obsess over these gifts and become so attached to them that if they are taken away, that a person becomes despondent and so depressed that they can no longer travel up in their journey. This is not the way. This is not the reason that God gives you the gift. Okay, so let me try to show you something. When we begin to love the gift instead of loving the giver. So when we become more in love with that was given to us by the giver, instead of being in love with the giver, we become in love with the gift. When we start to become dependent upon the gift and we forget about who gave us the gift. Okay, so the question is, how do we do that? Okay, for example, God gives us money, and we know that the money is from God. And so we understand that this is one of the provisions that He has for us, because we know that one of God's attributes is that He is a provider. For example, when God gives us money, we start to love the money more than the source that the money came from, or we start to love the money more than we love the giver of the money, in whom which is God. We actually start to depend on the money more than we depend on the giver of the money. Okay, so how does this show in our life? Okay, well, as long as we have the money, then we feel safe and secure. So long as my bank account is fat and heavy, then I feel safe. I feel secure. But the moment that I lose money, then all of a sudden, I don't feel safe anymore. Okay, so the question is, what were you or what am I depending on? Am I depending on my bank account? If I feel lost, do I start to think that the money comes from my job? Do I start to think that the money comes from my boss? Or do I know that the money comes from my provider, God? Even when the money starts to decrease, is God still there? Is the provision still there? Is the provider still there? Or did he go away? So we have to be careful where we put our trust, and we have to be careful where we put our ultimate love. How do we start to love the gift instead of the giver? Okay, I'll give you some very tangible ways that it happens in a subtle way. Okay, first and foremost, before I do that, I want to just let you know that God gives gifts because he loves to give gifts. In the case of money, we become so consumed with getting more and more and more money. And we start guarding it and having anxiety over losing even a little bit of it, to the point where we get put in situations, or we find ourselves in situations where we have to choose between the love of the money or the love that we have for God. We are faced with these choices all of the time. For example, in order to help our business grow, some people may think that they have to sell alcohol, or even sometimes a person might believe that in order to provide for their family, they may be deceived to think that they have to sell drugs. And when you start to sell drugs, you are displeasing God. So a person needs to stop and ask themselves, are you more concerned about making money, or are you more concerned about pleasing your Lord, about pleasing God? So once again, are you more pleased with the gift, or are you more concerned about pleasing the giver? Because we know right away that God does not approve, and he is not pleased with a person that is selling drugs or taking alcohol. But if a person loves their money more than God, then they will choose their money when they are faced with the choice. Another example of this is when God gives us a companion, a spouse, a family, children, and when we start to become obsessed, and when we love the gift, when we love our wife, when we love our family more than we love God, in whom which gave us the gift of having a family, this is incorrect. And please, don't get it twisted. It is okay to have money, and it is okay to have family. But when you have the money, hold the money in your hand and don't hold the money in your heart. When you have a family, you hold your family, but put God first. Because God gave you the family.